Now that the Minnesota Timberwolves have been eliminated from the NBA playoffs, there are a few interesting decisions they'll have to make in this offseason as it pertains to their roster, their salary cap, etc. We're going to cover that today. Also, there is this interesting quote unquote framework of a deal between these two teams regarding Garland and Garland Suggs. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. But make sure you do hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. 80% of viewers aren't subscribed, so you're missing out if you're one of those people. Make sure you do stick around as Trevor Lane and I cover the entire NBA. And we're going to keep you guys locked in with a quote-unquote crazy summer, according to Shams, and all the rumors, etc., and official deals as they get released and come out. All right, so we're going to talk about the Wolves first. So, fun fact, according to Hoops Hype, unless there's some incorrect data or something like that, the Wolves actually have the second most expensive payroll in the entire NBA this year, which I didn't necessarily know. Maybe I knew it, but just forgot it. But regardless, that's pretty expensive. And they've got a few guys, namely the three on the screen, Walker, Randall, and Reed, that are going to be commanding new deals. They're going to have to figure out a situation with them. There are some options involved and all of that. But ultimately, there's a chance they lose all these guys, but I don't think that'll happen, of course. But there's a chance they lose one or two of these guys as well. So Brian Windhorst was talking about that, and let's go ahead and read what he had to say. Well, I don't think they can keep this team together. The core they can, but Randall's a free agent, Walker's a free agent, and Reed is a free agent. He has an opt-out, which I'm sure he's going to take. Ant's contract is also very large. I would be surprised if they were able to re-sign all three guys. All right, so just briefly, I want to just go over the salary cap situation for them. Yeah, so Randall's making 30, let's just say 31 million next year. I would actually expect him to pick that up. I don't think he's going to get more than that. There could be a thing here with all three of these guys, namely Randall and Reed, where they opt out and then just take another deal with the same team at a lower number that maybe balloons a little bit later or descends. They could always work out something like that to where a player gets a certain amount in a certain year that works best for the team while still allowing the player to get as much money as possible. Within reason, of course. But I don't know. I think Randall's one of those guys that's got one of those old, I don't want to say old school, but like a remnant of a contract from like 4 or 5 years ago where a lot of all-star adjacent guys were getting about 30 million. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I think those players can still command about that amount, but I think this team specifically, I don't think they can have another guy making that amount. So I would assume for Randall, unless they make a decision on somebody else like a Gobert anyway, I would assume for Randall to pick up that option. I don't think he's getting any more, especially this offseason, than 30 million. And we'll see what happens with him in the long term. Really, there was reporting when they made that trade that trade wasn't for Randall specifically. It was because they wanted to get DiVincenzo, and they made sure they were adamant DiVincenzo was in the deal. But most importantly, they wanted to get off that cat contract, which was what, 60 million, something like that, 50-ish million. So they wanted to get off of that cat contract, and it was mostly a cost-cutting move. So there's that too. I mean, both of these teams in that trade are about to get eliminated potentially, assuming the Knicks lose the next few games, right? So yeah, I don't know, but it's a weird situation to be in for them because they are still facing the same thing. And do they think they can move forward without Randall? I mean, he was very up and down in the playoffs. I think he did enough good to dispel the playoff dropper stuff for him from a couple years, or a couple other times in the playoffs. But I still don't know if Randall can be your second best player on a championship team. Not right now. I think Ant is capable of being your one, but he's still got development to go. Like, I personally think Ant needs to develop a mid-range game, post game, whatever you want to call it, where he's got more options. He's either getting to the rim or shooting threes, and that's fine. It's perfect. It's perfectly fine. But I just think it's what kind of separates him from some other players like Shea, and it really showed up in this series, I think, shot making wise. Anyway, moving on. Reed, 15 million. I think he can command more than that. That's where things get tricky though, because I would assume he's going to get 20 million plus, 25 million or so. And then Alexander Walker is just flat out underpaid. He was making 4 million. I think he exceeded that contract value by a good bit. That's not much more than a minimum. So yeah, I would expect for him to be around 10. Let's just say 8, 9, 10. If they really want to keep him, I'm sure they can find a way to do so. But when you start looking at the fact that he's going to want and deserve a new contract, same for Reed, and Randall is most likely picking that option up unless they can come to terms on a lesser deal over more length. Maybe that's a decision Randall makes, but it just kind of gets pretty tight for them. And that's where like the Rudy Gobert piece of this all, like, I don't really I don't know if Rudy is the guy for this team. I think Rudy is an underrated. I don't want to say underrated because he's got the accolades, but like accolades aside, I think that the perception of Rudy defensively is just not accurate in a negative way. Like I think more people don't really. He's just such a meme. Everybody hates the guy, right? And I'm indifferent. I've cracked my jokes on him, of course, but I think he's better than people give him credit for. But that being said, at the end of the day, I don't know if a guy making 43 down to 35 next year that you can't rely on the offensive end is somebody you should employ on your roster if you're trying to have him be your second or third most expensive roster guy on the team. Like, I just don't know if you can do that. So that's the things that are a little bit tricky. And so with him, I think they'd have to make a decision on him. And again, he's actually a first ballot Hall of Famer. Funny to say, right? But the accolades speak for themselves. The 4-time DPOI, that's crazy. He's going to be first ballot. But whether you think he deserved him or not, he's got him. But I don't know that he's the guy that they can employ at 35, 36, 38 million over the next couple of years. And they may be better off trying to get a cheaper third big in this rotation. But honestly, I can see this team retooling their big around Reed just in general. Like there's a real chance in a couple of years, Randall and Gobert aren't here. And they're looking at the rest of this roster with Reed being their big and then trying to get pieces around Reed, McDaniels, DiVincenzo, and Edwards. And then who knows what happens with Walker. But ultimately, they do have some decisions to make. They're going to have to improve, of course. They weren't good enough, right? It's just tricky also because like the Thunder, it's kind of hard to say, oh, let's get better. But the Thunder were just a lot better. How much better are you going to get? You're hoping for internal improvement from some of your guys, of course. But I just don't know, right? All right, so on the Garland thing, this is not something that's like, oh, this is for sure going to happen. But it is an interesting thing to think about and talk about. So Garland and Suggs, potential framework for a deal here. Doesn't mean, if you read between the lines, it doesn't mean it's going to happen or anything like that. It's just something, it doesn't even mean that they've talked about it, but it does mean that it's something that's on the radar, just a smidge as we're talking about it. But on those two specifically, I think that'd actually be an interesting trade. Suggs isn't currently making enough money, but if you wait till the offseason, he balloons to $35 million. So let's go back to the Timberwolves conversation, by the way. Jalen Suggs will be making $35 million, I believe, annually. So that's kind of where contracts are today, right? But Garland was better metrically across the board for the most part. But that's not the only thing that kind of matters here. I think this will be a good swap for both teams. Firstly, I think Garland can offer solid playmaking for a team like the Magic that could use another guard playmaker. Also, volume 3-point shooting, shot 40% on about 7 attempts per game. I think that'd be great for them. And I think that on the Cavs side, I think you're really trying to, and this was also part of the rumor yesterday, really trying to build around Mobley. You're trying to build around Mitchell. I think Suggs would be a better fit as opposed to Garland alongside Mitchell, so that when you're out there, you don't have literally two targets in your backcourt. I think that would be interesting. Now, I think that it doesn't equate for the defensive side. Like, I think Garland is a much better offensive player, facilitator, but that again flips also for the defensive side. It's not close on that end. So it's interesting to talk about and think about. But what do you guys think about this potential framework of a deal? I don't know if it had happened. Like I said, yeah, 35, 32, 29. He descends, thankfully, but he makes a good bit of money going forward. He jumps from 9 million talking about Suggs here. But let me know what you guys think. Hope you all enjoyed. And if you haven't seen the most recent upload, make sure you check it out right now.